economic crash that you could hear on Mars to destroy the economic system that we have had, which is not, by the way, capitalism, it's cartelism, and replace it with this new system, which I've been writing about for a long time. I've also said that if you want to know what they plan for the West tomorrow, then look at China today, because China is the blueprint for this global society.
David,
so you take that into account,
David,
and then you apply it to what has happened as a result of this virus.
Right.
And every box is being ticked as a result of it in terms of what this plan demands.
And let me jump in really quick, David, if I may. I announced some numbers earlier in the program. I don't know if you were listening, but the as of midnight tonight, with the inclusion of India, 2.5 billion, that's 2.5 billion people on this planet as of midnight tonight will be under some sort of control, lockdown, curfew, or quarantine. That's about as daunting of a number as I can read, and surely it's going to go up. But 2.5 billion people, David, what do you say when you hear a number like that?
Well, I'm reluctant to say I told you so.
Right.
And it's not me, saying, see, I knew.
Right.
This is the point. If I knew this was the plan, as far back as the early 1990s, how could I know that unless it is a plan and not random?
Right.
So when I say, see, I said this then and I said that then, I'm not kind of just, boasting, look at me. I'm saying if I knew then, it's not random, is it? It's happening by design. And of course, two techniques that I've been writing about again since the 1990s to bring about this Hunger Games society are what I call problem, reaction, solution. Create the problem covertly, blame someone else for it or something else for it, get the population in fear of the problem, demand that you do something, or at least be open to you doing what you want to do. And then stage 3, you openly impose upon the population through laws or militarily, through law enforcement, whatever, the solutions to the problems you have covertly created. And the other one that goes along with that is the totalitarian tiptoe, as I call it, whereby you start at A and you know you're going to Z, but you go in steps, and every step is projected as unconnected to the other steps until you look back and see how far we've come step by step towards this very totalitarian state. Globalization is what? It's the centralization of global power in every area of our lives. This globalization is just a name for this agenda I've been talking about. And more, as the years and the decades have passed, indeed as the centuries have passed, because it goes back a very, very long way, you've seen this incessant centralization of power. We've gone from tribal groupings to national groupings, which were lots of former tribes now centrally controlled. And in Europe and other places, we've gone, like in the European Union, we've gone to a central control of lots of nations. And then you've got all the trade groupings and what have you, which are also ways of centralizing power over many different countries. You've got the United Nations, through which this is increasingly being channeled. And so these things are not random. And it's when challenges come and when things happen in the world, the challenges in and of themselves are unpleasant and have unpleasant consequences for people, which is very sad. But it also does something else in a positive way. It gets people's backsides off the fence. Because, I said many, many years ago, Jimmy, This has got to get real bad and real far down the road before it so impacts on people's lives that they stop and say, hold on a minute.
Right.
Let me just pause on the game show. Let me pause on the latest crap from Simon Cowell.
Right.
Let me pause from believing the propaganda of CNN and MSNBC and the BBC, etc. And let me just look again at what's happening, because what is going on? And there are enormous numbers of people who have bought the official story of what's going on now. But there are enormous numbers of people, new people, who are now reassessing everything because of what's happening. You know, people look at this virus and they think health. What the greatest legacy of what is happening is going to be, and already is for so many, is economics. And like I say, I've been saying that a massive financial crash, that making 2008 look like a tea party,
right,
was being planned so that they could use it as an excuse, problem, reaction, solution, to impose this digital AI controlled economic system. Since the very early 1990s, I've been talking in terms of money, that the plan demands the cashless society and the one currency society, and that one currency global society will be digital. The mopping up of individual currencies by the European Union, where the lira and the franc and the peso all kind of were disappeared for the euro. These were, as I said at the time, these are stepping stones to this one world currency. And you know, I said, Jimmy, that this situation we're facing now ticks every box.
Control.
What did the World Health Organization, which was created by this cult to create a central point to policy and perception of health, and is headed currently by a complete in the Marxist regime in Ethiopia, and was exposed 3 times for covering up cholera epidemics there. So this is the man who's now telling us what we should do in relation to this virus. And what was one of the things he said? And whatever comes out of Tedros's mouth is this cult speaking, by the way. He says, avoid cash.
Yes,
that's on the virus.
Yes, yeah, so, let me stop right there for a second, because if I'm going to go full conspiracy, right, and jump in with both feet, and I do it too easily, when that started to propagate, right, don't handle cash because of coronavirus and it can stick on cardboard and paper, I saw the writing on the wall. Today, when it was announced that part of this stimulus package, they were talking about checks being mailed, and now they're talking about digital currency being sent out, and that the stimulus will be on ATM cards to avoid cash. And I got to tell you, Dave, it's one of those things where I want you to be wrong. Right, I do. I don't want you to be right.
I want me to be wrong.
Right,
I've wanted me to be wrong for 30 years. Unfortunately, that's not the case, as we can see with events.
Right. And they're talking about doing this now. This is not something that is going around in the fringes of conspiracy circles. This is being discussed openly in the public about making these changes to a digital currency. Is that the point where we go, hold on a minute, wait a minute here, we need to do a reset on this whole conversation?
Well, I went to London middle of last week. I did an interview which actually got 1 million views in 24 hours.
I saw it, I saw it.
And what that says is it touched a chord with a very large number of people who are not buying this. But the reason I mentioned that is because on the trip to London, and by the way, London was shut. You know, I've been to London so many times in my life. I worked there for the BBC for many years, and it was a bizarre experience going through London. And it will be more empty now because a bigger lockdown has been announced since. But I got a black cab, you know, a classic London black cab from a major London railway station, Waterloo. And the guy told me he'd been sitting in the line waiting to get to the front to get a fare. 4 hours at a major London railway station. This is what we're dealing with. Anyway, what I'm leading round to is that, you know, on the trip, you buy a cup of coffee, you buy a sandwich, whatever. And these are all cash transactions. You know, you buy a sandwich, pay cash, you buy a coffee, pay cash. I had cash refused 3 times. In the 3 times that I stopped to buy something on the trip, I was refused cash 3 times. I had to use a card because they weren't taking cash anymore because of this virus. So you can see where this is. You can see where this is leading. And you know, I have this phrase: know the outcome, and you'll see the journey. If you know what the outcome is planned to be, the journey to that outcome, day by day, in changes in the world, is so easy to see. If you don't know the outcome plan, then they seem to be random events. And so people will look at this virus who don't know the background, and they'll say, oh, this is just a virus, or we've been unlucky. And then I look at all the boxes being ticked in terms of the plan as a result of this virus, and I just see the coordinated outcomes leading to the ultimate outcome, which in overwhelming terms, I would say, in terms of this virus situation, is a dramatic change in the world economic system. And a couple of other things, Jimmy. I talked a few minutes ago about the Hunger Games Society and how most of humanity would be in the bottom of this pyramid in virtually complete control and dependency upon the 1% that would control the money, of course, and who gets it and who doesn't. And what is going to be, even now, never mind weeks to come, even now, what is going to be the result of what has happened? It is globally enormous, breathtaking numbers of people are losing and will go on to lose more their independent livelihood, their ability to earn their own money independently. What is it targeting more than anything? This economic catastrophe. Small business, medium business, even some big business that won't necessarily be connected to this cult. That's what it's targeting. And one of the things I've been saying over the years is this Hunger Games Society is not meant to have small business. You can read this in my books from years ago. It's not meant to have small business and medium business. It's meant to have everything controlled by mega, centrally controlled corporations that control everything. And we have a classic example of exactly what I'm talking about with Amazon. Amazon is a classic cult Hunger Games Society company. It controls everything. How many small businesses has that destroyed alone? And then you go to another side of it, which is very important and something that people really need to be extremely alert about. And that's the solution. What is being talked about is more and more, as with your cashless society, as a result of this, is the so-called guaranteed income. The guaranteed income where the government pays people a guaranteed income every month. Now, this is something I've been warning about for years. You know, I've pretty much all my life, you know, since, from the point I basically became conscious, have thought that there should be a level below which no one's allowed to fall within a civilized society.
That's a power
believe that. And I have no problem with some kind of income support where there is a redistribution of the staggering profits of these mega corporations. Increasingly, as AI takes over the jobs, the ability to find employment is going to be harder and harder and harder. And of course, these corporations benefit massively from that, not just in terms of control, but AI doesn't have to be paid wages every week, every month. And so their profits vastly increase. And so I have no problem with lots of a significant chunk of those profits being redistributed to give people some kind of basic level of life when they have no other means of employment. Fine. But that is not what the guaranteed income that's being talked about now is all about. It is about control. Because if you look to China, in China you have a technocracy. It's run by technology and technologists. And that's the blueprint, the global technocracy that is planned. But they have been able, because they are a communist tyranny, to basically decide this is going to happen. So as a result of that, they are much further along the road to this global society blueprint than the rest of the world, although we're catching up fast. This is why there's such a connection between the Silicon Valley corporations and China, because the idea is to bring the Chinese model into the West. It's already happening. And what they have is what they call a social credit system, whereby they have millions of face recognition cameras in their cities. And your behavior is tracked in real time, 24/7. And your behavior, depending on what it is, gives you social credits or it has them taken away. And when you have them taken away to a certain point, then consequences kick in. As I've written in my books over the years, since it started, millions of Chinese people have been banned from flying and banned from even going on trains because of their social credit score. So it's a control system. And the idea is that they want to bring in a guaranteed income. Oh, out of the goodness of our hearts, we want to help you. Oh, look at the economic consequences of this virus. Isn't it terrible? All the jobs being taken by AI. Oh, we care for you. But what it is saying this. We're going to pay you a very small amount of money that's barely, if at all, capable of being lived around those zones. And it comes with strings, because if you do what the government wants, you'll get the guaranteed income. If you don't, you won't. And by the way, if you want to reject the guaranteed income, look around you, mate. Where else are you going to get one from? All the jobs have gone. And so this is another major element of this. So you can understand, I'm sitting here and I'm watching these things appear in all their different facets, and they're all from the wish list of this global cult.
What about the other element? We're going to be headed towards a break, and we can certainly pick this up when we come back. There's another part that I need you to help me understand, and I can't figure this out, David. The elites and the banks that we know are the major puppet masters here, you always follow the money. We understand that. But throwing away 20, 30, 40 trillion dollars virtually overnight and burning it in the streets doesn't seem to help the goal here. And or am I missing something? Because it's their money as well as mine and yours that is just virtually disappeared.
Well, they're creating money out of nothing. They just create it. I mean, look at it. You go to a bank and you ask for $100,000. Mm-hmm. They type into your account $100,000. But because of what's called fractional reserve lending, they're able to lend massively more than they actually have on deposit. And so what they're lending us is fresh air. It's money created out of nothing called credit. That's what credit is.
Right.
It's theoretical money. And they can create as much of that as they like. If you control the system, you control the money. I'll tell you a quick story if we've got time before the break. Just a quick story.
Sure, we got about 60 seconds.
How many?
60 seconds.
Okay, very quickly. I was approached by a guy in Australia who claimed to be a high Freemason. I think he was. And he said, I'm one of the good guys. I want to help you. And I said, oh, really? I got him into conversation. I thought, yeah, we'll see where this goes then. Go on. He says, oh, we need to get you some money. I said, what do you mean by that? He said, oh, we'll give you a credit card. I said, so how does that work? He says, well, you put the credit card, like in an ATM, whatever, and you put in a code and money comes out, but it's not registered as coming out. And I'm thinking, what? He said, yeah, we do it all the time. So, there are two economic systems, mate. There's one that we, the rest of us, work with, and there's one they work with. And what they're doing is destroying the one we work with to bring in one that gives them total and utter control. Because without cash, you go into a store and your credit card, your microchip as it's supposed to be, the person in the store says, sorry, the system won't accept your card. At the moment, you pay cash. When cash is gone and that computer says, oh, it won't accept your card, you have no other means of purchase. It's all about control. That's what the cashless society is. And that guy I met briefly in Australia, he was describing how this system works. Of course, I told him where to stick it in a place where the sun don't shine. But it was a very interesting conversation. He was trying to pull me in. That's what he was doing. To see that there's two systems like that.
Yeah, exactly. Let's take our break right here. Our guest tonight live from the UK, David Icke. And we're going to pick up right where we are leaving off right now. But I also want to ask David how he's getting along, how the family is, and everything else with the United Kingdom in a virtual shutdown like the rest of the planet. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. This is Fade to Black. Stay with us. We'll be right back. Welcome back, Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Tonight, David Icke, live from the United Kingdom. Tomorrow night is Fader night. Thursday night, Chris Bledsoe is here. Going to be taking your calls and answering your questions all night long. Tonight, David Icke. And David, I want to continue where we left off, but before we do, how are you doing? Did you get the house ready? Is the family safe? Are you guys okay? How are you occupying your time?
Well, it's almost quite amusing, really, when I look at it, because I've been in self-isolation.
How you living, brother?
And,
How you living, brother?
Lockdown, as they would call it, for about the last 20 years.
That was made for you. That was
I spend my time working. I'm up at 4 or 5 in the morning and go through the day working. And I go to the store to get some food about 3 times a week, and I go for a walk, to get some sun and exercise. And that's pretty much my life. So my life hasn't really changed as a result of this lockdown. But for vast numbers of people, it's fundamentally irreversibly has for many of them. My family are fine. My boys work with me, but from quite a distance away up in the Midlands in Derby.
Until next
and
time.
They are fine, and we're just getting on with it because this is a time when people are focused on what's going on, and their minds become open to perhaps another explanation for what's going on, and therefore, this is a great time to.
If you're not going to buy
especially
anything,
with people,
could you
at
please
home
step
and
outside?
with not a great deal to do often. People have the opportunity to get informed on what actually is going on, and so it's a time when we're working very hard to do that.
I wanted to ask you about the announcement today from Boris Johnson about the 30-pound fine for leaving your house without good reason, and that fine will be imposed on the spot. And in a weird way, I see it as good news that if the virus threat is real and people do need to stay at home, okay, I get it. People ignoring this and going out, there's that part of it. Then the other side says to me that this is a way to start moving forward with real control. What did you make of the announcement when it happened?
Well, it's the totalitarian tiptoe.
Right.
I've been saying since this started to appear in Britain, and I think it was in Britain a lot earlier than people imagine.
Every piece in our collection tells a story, whether it be through its elegant design, its unique makeup,
how did I know that?
or the
Because there's a
history
global
of its
script.
crafter.
That's why. And different countries reach that point in different time scales as the excuse to do it circulates. And so it's lockdown. And then from lockdown, it's actually you're going to fine you if you go out when you shouldn't. And on and on it goes.
The traveler made
tiptoe
humanity
just goes on getting more
lures them into a false sense of
severe.
security.
And in terms of Boris Johnson, and I think it very much in terms also of Trump, from what I've seen, is that they really don't want to go down this road.
Admire with your eyes, not with your
we
hands.
have professional soccer just in suspended animation. It just stopped. There is none. And Boris Johnson didn't want to do
The
that.
Black Armory
He
believes
said
not in the
the
traveler or
science
its
advice he
shambling
had is
debt,
that wasn't going
but
to
in
be
humanity
a very
itself.
significant thing to do in terms of the virus. But the football authorities then shut it down almost immediately after he said that. So he didn't shut that down. And, what you've got this cult, and it is borderless. It operates in all the major countries that dictate the direction of the world. And it is, it does have politicians that serve its interest, absolutely. But overwhelmingly, it's what I call the permanent government. The permanent government that's always there, no matter which party or president or prime minister is in power. If you look at whether it's this party or that party, you look back with hindsight and you'll see that the world continued in the same direction pretty much. The rhetoric may have changed, a bit of emphasis may have changed, but pretty much the world went on in the direction it was going, irrespective. And that's because the world is dictated and countries are dictated by the permanent government. In fact, we now have a phrase that's emerged to describe what I've been describing since the early 1990s. People call it the deep state. The deep state is only part of the permanent government, but it is very, very significant because it controls the military and the intelligence networks and government administration, etc., and law enforcement like the FBI. And that's where the agenda comes from, through to the here today, gone tomorrow politicians. So you've got someone like Boris Johnson, who came to power in December with a massive majority.
Not with your hands.
And he had his economic policy where he wanted to go. And suddenly this comes along and completely destroys it. And obviously he's not stupid. He knows, just as Trump knows, that the more you lock down, the more you are going to destroy the economy in a way that's irrecoverable in terms of what it was before, and that he's going to have to oversee that. And they don't want that. Trump's trying to get elected this year, Jim.
Right,
Jimmy.
right.
So he is pushing back on it, and Johnson was pushing back on it. But imagine you've got people around you from the permanent government, the dark suits, and they're saying, Mr. Prime Minister, Mr. President, if you don't do what we say has to be done, i.e. this Orwellian lockdown, then this number of people are going to die, and you are going to get the blame for it. And where do these figures come from that are terrifying people? They come from computer models, the same computer models that have completely misread previous viruses that were going to be this global, nightmare that turned out not to be. By the way, what happened to Ebola in terms of the West?
Every piece in our collection tells a story, whether it be through its elegant design, its unique meaning, or the history
So the same computer models are what is dictating policy on human-caused climate hoax, because that's what it is, an absolute hoax. And if you look at what is being demanded for a solution to the climate alleged danger, and what's being brought about by this virus alleged pandemic, in terms of, we're all going to die, they are the same. When you look at what they're calling for to respond to the dangers to the climate, it's a whole new economic system. They're both speaking from the same script. The alarm bell should be going off all over the place. So when you're faced with that, all these people are going to die. Our computer models say so, even though they're talking nonsense. And when I say enormous numbers of people, I mean, some of the figures are just
Armory believes not in the traveler or its shambling dead, but in humanity
You're going to cave eventually, almost certainly. And Johnson has caved now, and he's just following the script of the permanent government. And just in terms, Jimmy, of this virus and its danger, 98% of people, something like that, recover from it. According to mainstream medicine, 80% of people who get it have, this is a quote,
the Black Armory predates this city, I'll have
Then you have the next group who have moderate symptoms, leaving a small group of older people and people with other health problems that are in danger, as they are in danger from influenza and what have you. In 2017, 2018, according to Centers for Disease Control and Prevention figures,
I have kept an eye on your
45 million Americans got the flu.
I am unimpressed.
61,000, I've seen figures as high as 80,000, died from it. Why weren't we locked down then? Why wasn't America locked down then? Because it wasn't the time to play this card. Now it is, and so the common denominator of people who are in danger from this and in danger from other things is a weakened immune system.
Guardian.
They are only there. Older people have weaker immune systems. They don't have to. You can boost them. And by the way, why isn't anyone in the mainstream talking about how to boost your immune system? Vitamin A, vitamin D3, vitamin C, etc. They're not. Big Pharma, the pharmaceutical cartel, gets its profits from people having weak immune systems. So here we have a situation whereby a small number of people,
the traveler made humanity weak,
and the vast majority who get it, and most won't, deal with it fine, and yet we're shutting down the world global economic system catastrophically to protect the few who are in danger from it. Now, if you're going to cocoon people and you're going to care about the bigger picture, then you cocoon and target your resources on those who are in danger from it. And you do whatever you need to do to isolate them from contact with the virus. and or you make sure they have everything they want, and it would cost a fraction of what this is costing, and you let everyone else get on with their bloody lives. I had this virus, I'm almost certain now, before Christmas. So did my son, and so did my granddaughter. We had every single symptom that is said to be the symptoms of coronavirus. And I thought for a start that actually we got something when this broke. We had got something which was different but had the same symptoms. Now what's happening, Jimmy, is they're pushing back the point where this virus entered Britain. They now got to the point where it was January at the latest, they say, that this came. And we got this thing about 2 weeks, well, actually, in terms of my granddaughter, across Christmas, and just before Christmas in terms of me and my son, Gareth. I never stopped working. I had all the symptoms, weren't very pleasant for about, a week. I do a weekly review of the developments of the week for subscribers to my website. Mm-hmm. And I had to delay that 2 days, I remember, because I was coughing my guts up after 2 sentences. So that's what we went through. But we came out fine. And I want to read you this. This was a story that came to light yesterday. A friend of mine was looking through the government website, British government website, on this whole virus, the major government website that covers all departments. And she found this page, which was headed High Consequence Infectious Diseases, which are known as HCID, High Consequence Infectious Diseases. And she nearly fell out of her chair when she came across this. And I put it on my website yesterday, and it's been circulating on social media. And it says this: status of COVID-19. This is an official government site and organization. And it says this: as of 19 March 2020, COVID-19 is no longer considered to be a high consequence infectious disease, HCID, in the UK. The Four Nations Public Health HCID group made an interim recommendation in January 2020 to classify COVID-19 as an HCID. This was based on consideration of the UK HCID criteria about the virus and the disease, with information available during the early stages of the outbreak. Now it says that more is known about COVID-19. The public health bodies in the UK have reviewed the most up-to-date information about COVID-19 against the UK HCID criteria. They have determined that several features have now changed. In particular, more information is available about mortality rates, brackets low overall, and there is now greater clinical awareness and a specific and sensitive laboratory test, the availability of which continues to increase. The Advisory Committee on Dangerous Pathogens is also of the opinion that COVID-19 should no longer be classified as an HCID, a high consequence infectious disease. And that was updated to say that on March 19, 2020, and a matter of 4 days later, 5 days later, there's this lockdown on Britain because we're all in such danger from this virus. Now, they make no sense whatsoever. And we are looking at a massive hyping of this. I know no one in Britain who has COVID-19. No one in my office run by my boys in Derby. knows anyone. No one they know knows anyone. And that doesn't mean people haven't got it. It means the way this is being hyped and promoted by the media is just ridiculous. Do you know, Jimmy, I turned on the radio the other day to a station in Britain called Talk Radio, mainstream. And I actually heard the presenter say, "This is the greatest health crisis the world has ever seen." And I'm thinking, does that include the Black Death that wiped out up to 60% of the European population? You know, is that included there? And so when you take a breath and you look at it in a more considered way, and you get out of the survival mechanism responses, you start to see that this is actually not the genocidal virus that even some in the alternative media are claiming it is, which ain't helping. It's not a genocidal virus. If it was, people of all ages would be going down like ninepins. In fact, the overwhelming ones, the common denominator is a weakened immune system. Do you know, these are official figures, Jimmy, from the Italian Health Service. 99% of people who died in Italy from this coronavirus had 1, 2, 3 or more other health problems, which meant their immune system was on its feet, on its last legs, holding on to all these challenges it was having. And then it was hit by this and couldn't cope. But if you've got an immune system on any way on active duty, it just casts it aside. I'm coming up 68. I had all these symptoms. I never stopped working. It weren't very pleasant, but I never stopped working. And you got on it. Gaz never stopped working, but you know he had unpleasant symptoms, but never carried on working. And so this hyping is driving the fear, which is allowing the solution to be unfolded with lots of people, nothing like all, but lots of people supporting it. Because when the survival mechanism kicks in, you lose the ability to think straight. This is what panic buying in the stores is all about. You know, I have to survive, and if me surviving means you don't, well, fair enough, because I have to survive. This is how the survival mechanism works.
Sure.
And the survival mechanism also plays out in the sense of if it thinks that draconian measures will increase its likelihood of survival, it will support them and demand that they are imposed on everybody. So this is what's being manipulated with all this, the survival mechanism of humanity, this innate fear that so many have of death and fear of the unknown and all that stuff. This is used all the time to manipulate our behavior and reactions. But when you bring your perception out of the survival mechanism into the thinking parts of the brain, that the whole thing starts to look different.
What do we do about the reality side of it, where it feels like a science fiction movie playing out, but it's for real, right? Right?
It is.
Yes. What do we do with that part of it? Because I understand what COVID-19 and coronavirus may or may not be. I have a pretty good grip on that, David. But like you said, I still have to go shop for my family. I'm still king of my castle, and I'm going to the markets with empty shelves. That part of it is very real for not only myself, but for a lot of people on this planet. That's the part that we need to deal with today.
Yeah, well, but the thing is that you see, and by the way, I'm not saying they don't have viruses that are genocidal. I'm
right,
sure they
right.
do. They have a population color gender. What I'm saying is, this, unless there's mutations, this is not it. The goal of this, overwhelmingly from the cult's point of view, is to destroy the world economy, and so they can put their one waiting in the shadows into place. That doesn't mean that people won't die from this. People are dying from this, but let's just put it into perspective. You know, every year, on average, 17,000 people in Britain die from the flu. In 2014, it was 28,000. So if we were dealing with those figures now with COVID-19, I mean, crikey, what the hell will be happening? And this happens as a matter of course every year. So we just need to take a breath, keep calm, and look at this from a calm perspective, and it will look different. Yeah, I mean, I go to the supermarket about 3 times a week. I'm fine. You know, I've just changed what I eat because I'm just eating what basically other people don't seem to want, which are short time sell-by dates. And you know, I buy stuff like that all the time. So you know, I don't buy long-term sell-by date food, which is the stuff that's basically going. But you know, this cult may be sick beyond human imagination, sick, and psychopathic beyond human imagination, psychopathic. But it's very clever in the way that it understands the human psyche. And by the way, all the time that people are posting on social media, posting on the internet, all these other means in which they're communicating their thoughts and communicating their actions, all that is being absorbed by AI. So AI gets incredibly advanced understanding of how the human psyche works. And then it can be used, of course, to manipulate the human psyche. This is how it works. So if people imagine a line of dominoes all over a room that you see sometimes, they know that when you press the first one, the second one's going down, the third one's going down. They know the sequence is going to start. So in terms of this virus, once they got the fear out there and what have you, then suddenly they knew the second one was going down and the third and the fourth. And one of those was going to be people hitting survival mechanism mode and going to the stores and buying everything that moves. And I was reading, I think it's a funny story anyway, and such a classic story of reports now that people are taking toilet rolls back, see if they can get money back on them because they realize they don't need anything like as many as they bought.
Yeah, they bought too much.
You know, I mean, it's crazy. I mean, if you run out of toilet paper, use the morning papers. I mean, what's more appropriate, you know?
Yeah, there's always a backup. We need to take a break right here, David. This is Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Our guest tonight, David Icke, live from the United Kingdom on the Game Changer Network and KGRA The Planet. This is Fade to Black. Stay with us.
Hello, Tim.
How's it going?
Thanks for finally being here.
Yeah.
Long story, right?
Yeah.
I definitely drank too much coffee before we get here, so I appear like cracked out. I swear to God, I'm not in pills. But
Glad to hear it.
So we had a nice conversation on the phone about
No more lives on your side.
Only 1 minute left.
Only 1 minute left. Been knocked out.
30 seconds remaining.
30 seconds remaining.
No lives left.
No lives left for anyone.
Rest when you're
Rest
dead.
when you're dead.
10 seconds.
10 seconds.
Tiebreaker active.
Tiebreaker active. The end is coming. Fight! You
obliterated
obliterated the enemy.
You're in the lead.
You're in the lead. Stay there.
God damn it, no, fuck. Oh, that's gonna fucking hurt.
Three lives left. You're ahead on live. No lives left for your enemy. Destroy. Destroy. You annihilated them.
Round start.
Round start.
You're ahead.
You're ahead.
lives left. Enemy team has no reserves left. Finish them.
One minute left.
1 minute left. The enemy is out of second chances. All opponents defeated.
You have
match point. Finish them. Three lives left. No lives left for your enemy. Destroy them. Destroy them. One minute left. The enemy is out of second chances. Enemies down. All lives expended.
Social victory.
Social victory.
Yeah, motherfucker. We did good that time, dog.
The weight of the world
was on your shoulders. And
you
still you triumphed.
Marvelous.
Marvelous.
No, oh, goddamn, ow.
officially releases UFO. This is the tweet. It says, new Pentagon formally released 3 mysterious UFO videos captured by Navy pilots. The already leaked videos showed what DoD insists on calling unidentified aerial phenomena, moving at incredible speeds and performing near impossible maneuvers. This is a weird subject because it's one of those subjects where people automatically dismiss it because it's been so touted by kooks. There's so many wacky fucks that have talked about UFOs that anybody talking about UFOs has to be out of their fucking mind. But then when you see these videos and you see them performing these impossible tasks, like these things are moving in a way that we've never seen anything move before. Flipping upside down and sideways, moving at insane rates of speed. Like, they don't know what these are.
Yeah.
Aerial phenomena. 3, 2, 1. Tim Pool, you madman.
How's it going?
Dude, one. The OG, ladies and gentlemen.
Oh, Joe.
You're the OG. Dude,
Virtual.
we can give each other real knuckles.
Come on.
Here we go.
I'm not crazy. I'm not like a paranoid person, but I'll tell you, Joe, you got me to leave my house for the first time in 5 weeks.
I'm so happy you left, and I'm so happy you got tested.
Yeah, my first time in 5.
Ha ha ha. 4, 3, 2, 1. Boom. Thank you. Thanks for doing this, man. Really appreciate it.
Hey, welcome.
It's very good to meet you.
Nice to meet you too.
And thanks for not lighting this place on fire.
You're welcome. That's coming later.
How does one just